Oh my God. Damn, that looks good.
Hey, what's up? I'm Joe. You're watching How to Excel, and I thought it'd be a good challenge to take the Nikon Z30 for a little street photography session. Now, I know it's a budget camera, but I did use a plugin when I got home in Lightroom that really just took the photos from like basic to like, damn! And I want to talk about it with you guys today. This video was brought to you by the.Dehancer. They did reach out to me, offer me a license so that way I could go ahead and try to plug it for myself before I give you some feedback on it. They didn't see this video prior to me posting. They didn't give me any kind of script of what I have to say. It's all my own views, all my own opinions, and yeah, that legal stuff's done. Let's get back to it. I decided to really challenge myself and I wanted to use a kit lens. I also forgot my ND filter and I'm a huge introvert. So there are already 3 things that were going against me. Going out in public, it's kind of scary. So for this challenge, I decided to go down to Balboa in Newport Beach, California. I figured going down to where the fun zone and the strip is would be just a nice kind of nostalgic kind of street vibe. Plus, I was going on a day it wasn't really too busy, and being super introverted sometimes, or at least post-pandemic, it was going to be challenging. So I figured, really for me, I just want to kind of get my first steps in there and just work on landscape, work on like buildings, and just kind of get in an environment. I figure stage 1 before I go into like full crowded spaces, right? A couple of things to note: it was sunny, it was harsh lighting in a lot of spots. There was also some shaded spots. So I already was going to be presented with a couple challenges. First things first, with Nikon Z30, the kit lens is a 16-50, 3.5 to a 5.6. Normally when I would do a shoot something like this, I'd probably carry a 24mm. So I did. I brought a 24mm glass, which is like under $300. I also brought some older f-mount lenses so that way you could see how the camera works given that kind of scenario. So I guess overall, the kit itself could probably be under $2,000, but potentially less because you'd be buying used glass. But for the most of the pics, I took with just the kit lens. Now, I did run into some challenges with the Z30 because the fact that it only goes up to 1/4000th of a second for a shutter speed. In a harsh light scenario, it could be really tough because your shot is going to be really overexposed. Now, if you're working with RAW, you should be able to bring a lot of that back down. However, if you were able to go out with like an ND filter in an environment like that, it would definitely help. But in the shaded areas, it was not a problem whatsoever. A lot of the photos that I took, I was kind of skeptical, right? Initially, when I came home, I'm gonna have some shots and they're gonna be okay. I could throw a couple presets on and kind of go from there. But that's when I decided to use the .Dehancer plugin, and having it built in with Lightroom was just an amazing experience. And I have to say, I didn't go into the shoot thinking about, oh, let me get that old school film look. But once I really started playing with this plugin, like it kind of took over, and I found myself really kind of getting into this whole mindset of taking vintage, Newport, Balboa, and recreating like old photos with newer technology. So let's take a look at some of those photos. So one of the cool things about the .Dehancer plugin is that it works natively within Lightroom Classic. If you use a new Lightroom, I'm sure you can use it there as well. But for myself personally, I love Lightroom Classic. It's hard for me to give up. So from here, I can actually go ahead and open these photos. So I started kind of going through the photos myself, but let's just take a quick look here. The way .Dehancer works is it actually recommends for Lightroom base settings, like turning down the exposure, turning up, down the contrast and things like that. So what I did is I actually created a .Dehancer color space preset. So that way I could kind of go through Adobe, pop in that preset to adjust like lighting and stuff like that, make sure it's exposed correctly the way I wanted it. And then from there, then I could go ahead and upload it to the .Dehancer plugin. So let's go ahead and apply that. So here's my original photo, right? Let's do it here. So you can see the difference just from that first shot. Now I'm going to go ahead and load up. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, and I'm going to go to edit in the .Dehancer plugin.
And so it's going to create a TIFF, which is great. And I can just go ahead and I won't change like the raw photo itself. So we're going to let that load up here. And then now you can see it actually pulls up the last edit that I did. So here's the original photo. Now here's the cool thing about it, right? You have two versions of this. You have presets, which is what you're seeing right now, which just shows you a preview of what the photo would look like given the preset you choose. So you can actually sort it based off of, you know, I want to sort it by name, by type. I could go based off the different film that I'm looking for. So if I want to use like Kodak Eastman, I could click here and it's going to filter out down to that Kodak Eastman. So I could pick it based off of a drop down menu, or I could actually scroll through here and look at actual physical previews of it. So again, here's my original photo. I got the histogram down here. I do have all these manual options. So the nice thing is, right, I could go ahead and click on films and I could pick based off the native film just to give me the right color space. And then from there, I could actually play through with different exposures, temperature control, fringe control, go through the whole idea of developing the film, adding compression to it, if I want to show what it would look like on a specific type of print. And then the cool thing is you can add different film grains, halation, bloom, and vignette. I would actually tell you, I actually don't use halation enough to mess around with it without going through like a preset. But for someone who's like new getting into the whole like film world, you know, their presets are nice to kind of start off by. But this is the cool part. So I could go through a preset and I could kind of just play around with it. You know, here's going through Autox color. You kind of get the idea of that just vintage vibe. So it really kind of takes from what it used to look like, which was here, and gives you what it would look like in an old film kind of look. And the nice thing is you can build off of just like a preset, right? A preset or like a LUT, anything like that. You pop it in here, you have to still tweak it a little bit. Like you can't just throw on a preset and cool, go to town. But it gives you a good starting base. And so I can actually go through here and add these different presets. And from there I can make edits. Like this just, oh my God. Honestly, like this looks so good. Just off the bat. But I can come into here and I can make changes. Like I said, if I want to work on some exposure of it, I can play around with it a little bit. Like let's say the print wise, like the whole tonal contrast of it. I really could start playing with different aspects of it. And this is like, there's a lot to go into. Like this is definitely not a tutorial, right? This is me reviewing it as a product. Let's say I want to throw in some, where is it here, a little bit of noise and some grain. So it has some grain right now. If I go 1-to-1, you can actually kind of see it. But I could really throw it in there if I want to. Like right now, there's no film grain at all. But I can throw it in there a little bit and kind of get that old school vibe. This is the size of it, so if I want to make it a lot, but it's really small, you can kind of peep it and see it, versus I can just make it huge, and I can't read half of this stuff. But it's a good way to kind of mimic that look of it all, but like even just like this, it looks beautiful. So yeah, on the top level, just playing with the De-Hancer plugin, it allows you to really kind of just go to town on some of these images. Oh, this just looks good. But again, here's the thing, like you can go through, play with it, and then from there you can just kind of say, hey, do I want to add more or not? Like I can play with this as much as I want to here. I mean, honestly, it's that easy. That's the thing. Using this plugin is really simple because it just works natively where you can take photos that you loved and shot and just edit it. And that way you can kind of get the best of both worlds. So like, I could take this shot, right? Like this is probably one of my harder shots. Like I had to max out the Z30 because it could only go 1/4000th of a second. So it really was being pushed and I did not have an ND filter, so that really kind of sucked. But I could go ahead and prep it. So here's the original photo and then with the De-Hancer edits. God, it's such a vibe. I love it.
So you could go out, if you have a film camera, or find like an old vintage film camera, buy the film, try to get it developed. It could be costly, right? However, by using some of this technology that's been developed and curated to match that same kind of quality, it's definitely a different experience while using newer age tech and abilities. Like, don't get me wrong, I remember back in the day I used to use old school manual cameras and it was cool, but man, if you didn't get that shot, you were screwed. And I guess, yes, there was some beauty in itself, but sometimes it's just like, no, it's a hot mess. You can actually get this for a 3-month license for $69 off their website. You could also buy a lifetime license for $199. Now, granted, some people might say, well, that's pretty hefty for a plugin. When you consider the cost that you would spend to buy film and get it developed, or buy the chemicals to develop it yourself and go through that educational piece, in the long run, you will be saving a lot more money. And of course, you do have that availability to really kind of configure your own look and really create your own presets, if you will. So I definitely see the value, especially if this is kind of your style that you're going for and you want to be able to have it at the ready. A lifetime license or even just a 3-month license to try it out is pretty good. But you're in luck. You can actually download a trial for 2 weeks and honestly, give it a shot. It's pretty interesting. There is also, might have mentioned my phone. Come here, my phone people, right? So if you shoot on a phone, there is an actual phone app as well, where you have a lot of the same capabilities and you can buy a license as well. You can check it at your, your regular app store, whichever it is. I don't know what iPhone and all of them are doing now, but it's in there. It's in there. Are you a traditionalist trying to still get that film look, but are you also trying to adapt with the newer technology? Do you see this plugin will help you in your workflow? Let me know in the comments below if you think that this is going to help you and if you're interested in it. If not, leave an emoji of the last thing you ate. I mean, either way, it's going to help the algorithm. The engagement's going to help me find other creators like you. Otherwise, as always, my name is Joe. This is Mod to Excel. And until next time, peace.
I am Zoltar, the Great Gypsy, and I can see your fortune. Come see
Can
it
you?
too, no?
Can you hopefully see that this video gets views? Maybe, maybe.